Hey everyone, ready to become a reading rock star?
I like that reading rock star.
Well, because today we're diving deep into how to power up those English reading skills.
Awesome.
Whether you're prepping for a big exam or just want to, finally conquer that massive book everyone keeps talking about.
Yeah.
This is for you.
Absolutely.
We're taking an awesome podcast episode called 10 Tips to Improve Your Reading Skills for Beginners.
Yeah.
And, dissecting it.
Okay.
Extracting those little golden nuggets that you can put into practice today.
Love it.
So no more feeling overwhelmed or lost.
Yeah. No more information overload.
Exactly. Let's jump right in. Tip number 1 is all about starting simple.
Makes sense.
It's so tempting to just grab the most complex,
Yeah.
super intellectual book.
Right.
But just you wouldn't climb Mount Everest without any training.
Good point.
You don't want to jump into War and Peace.
Yeah, you'll just set yourself up for failure.
Totally. The podcast episode really emphasizes that starting with achievable material is key.
It's all about building that foundation.
Exactly. Think children's books.
Oh, yeah.
Graded readers for English learners.
Perfect example.
That way you can grasp the fundamentals without feeling totally lost.
And those small wins, those early victories?
Yes.
They really fuel your motivation to keep going.
Makes total sense. Tip number 2 is something I actually used when I was learning Spanish.
Oh, really? I'm intrigued.
Reading aloud.
Oh, wow.
I know it can feel kind of silly at first.
I can imagine.
But trust me, there's a method to this madness.
Okay, I'm listening.
It could help me so much with pronunciation and just getting comfortable with the language.
There's actually a lot of science behind this.
Really?
Oh, yeah. When you read aloud, you're using multiple senses at once.
I see.
You're seeing the words and hearing them simultaneously.
Makes sense.
And that strengthens the neural pathways in your brain responsible for language processing.
So it's like a workout for your brain.
Exactly. Think of it like building a superhighway for information.
So it's not just about pronunciation then?
Nope, not at all. It actually helps with comprehension and remembering what you read, too.
Wow, that's amazing. I never thought of it that way.
It's kind of like when you were a kid learning your first language.
Yeah.
You spent a lot of time listening to others talk and then repeating what you heard.
Right.
Reading aloud taps into that same process.
Fascinating. So it's like we're tapping into our inner child.
In a way, yes.
Oh.
And that brings us to the third tip.
Okay, what's next?
It builds on this idea of being active.
Active reading.
Yes. The episode talks about how important it is to understand new words in context.
Oh, yeah, I remember this one. Instead of just memorizing a word,
Right.
you learn it as part of a sentence.
Exactly. Like the podcast gives a great example.
Lay it on me.
Instead of just learning the word happy, learn it in a sentence like, she was happy because she got a new puppy.
Oh, that's a good one.
Rad. It just makes it stick so much better.
It's like the word comes alive.
Exactly. You're not just learning the definition, you're understanding its emotional weight.
Yeah. You get a sense of why she's happy.
And how that word connects to other words.
It paints a picture.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got starting simple, reading aloud, and learning in context.
Powerful stuff, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
What are tips 4 and 5?
Well, they're all about using tools to enhance your reading experience.
Okay, tools and resources.
The podcast suggests using a bilingual dictionary.
Which makes sense, especially if you're a beginner.
Yeah, it's like having a translator right there with you.
Helping you navigate those tricky words and phrases.
And then tip number 5 goes hand in hand with that one.
Oh, okay, I'm curious.
It's about using visuals.
Like pictures.
Yeah, the podcast talks about picture books.
Right.
Which are great for beginners, obviously. But even experienced readers can benefit from creating their own mental images.
Oh, I see.
Visualizing what you're reading can be a game changer.
I can imagine.
It takes those words on the page and turns them into a movie in your mind. It makes the information so much more engaging and memorable.
So you're not just reading words, you're experiencing a story.
Precisely.
All right, so we're halfway through our deep dive into these 10 tips.
Feeling empowered yet?
I know I am. Starting simple, reading aloud, learning in context, using a bilingual dictionary, and visualizing what we read.
It's like we're assembling our reading toolkit.
I love that analogy. But we've only just scratched the surface.
There's so much more to explore.
I can't wait.
Okay, so we're back, ready for more reading tips.
Oh yeah, hit me with those next gems.
All right, so tip number 6.
Okay.
This one's all about consistency.
Makes sense. Got to stay committed, right?
Absolutely. The podcast really emphasizes making reading a regular habit.
Even just a few minutes each day.
Exactly. Even 5 minutes can make a difference.
I can see that.
It all adds up.
I know, but finding the time is tough.
I hear ya. Everyone's busy.
But I guess you're right. Every little bit counts.
Think of it this way. 5 minutes a day is over 30 hours of reading in a year.
Wow, that puts it into perspective.
Right.
Okay, I'm convinced. Gotta make time for reading.
Awesome. Now let's move on to tip number 7.
Okay. I'm all ears.
This one encourages readers to ask questions.
While they're reading.
Exactly.
I actually started doing that recently.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been a game changer.
I bet. It turns reading into a conversation.
Yeah, instead of just passively taking in the words.
Right, you're actively engaging with the text.
I feel like I'm actually understanding and remembering more.
Exactly. It's like you're digging deeper, making connections.
Okay, so consistency and asking questions.
Powerful stuff.
What's next? Give me tips 8 and 9.
Okay, so these focus on audiobooks and summarizing.
Audiobooks, I love those.
Yeah, they're great, especially if you're an auditory learner.
Plus, you can listen to them anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Commuting, exercising, even doing chores.
And summarization, that's a good one too.
It really forces you to think about what you've read.
Yeah, like can I explain the main points in my own words?
Exactly. If so, you're on the right track.
If not.
Well, it might be a sign you need to reread certain sections.
Makes sense.
It's all about active learning.
I'm loving these tips. All right, what's the final tip, the grand finale?
This one's simple but super important. Be patient and have fun.
Yeah, I was hoping they'd mention that.
Sometimes we get so caught up in being perfect.
Right, we forget to enjoy the process.
Learning a language should be enjoyable.
It's like exploring new worlds.
Discovering new perspectives.
Totally. And there's so many ways to make reading fun.
Absolutely. Choose books you actually like.
Yeah, join a book club.
Start a reading challenge with friends.
The possibilities are endless.
The key is to find what works for you.
Make reading a part of your life you actually look forward to.
Exactly. So as we're wrapping up this deep dive, remember becoming a proficient reader is a journey.
It's not a race.
It takes time, effort, and, a willingness to embrace the ups and downs.
I agree. There will be times when you feel frustrated.
For sure.
But every step you take is a step in the right direction.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Mistakes are part of the learning process.
Embrace them, analyze them, learn from them.
Okay, we've explored these 10 tips in depth.
From start to finish.
But there's one final point I want to touch on before we wrap up. It's like, how do we actually make these tips work for us?
Yeah, it's one thing to hear them.
Right.
But actually putting them into practice is where the magic happens.
Because what works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly. Some people love audiobooks.
Yeah.
Others prefer holding a physical book.
Totally. So it's all about experimenting, right?
For sure. Try reading aloud one day.
Okay.
Then try visualizing the next.
I like that.
See what clicks for you.
It's about finding your own groove.
Exactly. And that kind of brings me to the thought I want to leave our listeners with today.
Okay, I'm ready.
Think about just one thing you'll read differently or more often starting today.
Ooh, I love that. It's a challenge.
It is. Because knowledge without action,
Well, it's kind of useless, right?
it's like a seed that never gets planted.
Ooh, that's a good analogy.
It has potential, but it needs the right conditions to grow.
And those conditions come from us.
Exactly. Choose your reading material wisely.
Right.
Make time for it every day.
Even if it's just for a few minutes.
Exactly. Embrace the tools and techniques that work for you.
And most importantly,
Have fun.
yes, make it enjoyable.
Because when you enjoy something, you naturally want to do it more.
So true. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have 10 amazing tips.
From starting simple to having fun.
And everything in between.
I hope our listeners feel empowered to level up their reading skills.
I think they do.
So go out there, explore the world of books, and remember,
You're not alone on this journey.
we're all in this together.
Happy reading, everyone.